We're going to see if we can go live on YouTube. I think we're live on YouTube. Okay. If everything is working correctly, we should be simulcasting on TikTok and YouTube through a pretty hilarious jury rig that I have set up, where on YouTube I'm able to stream using my usual setup with a nice streaming webcam and a nice microphone and audio interface and all the fancy stuff. But TikTok is being a little bit silly, and we're going to talk about that as part of the topic of this live stream today. And I am currently not able to actually stream from my desktop on TikTok. So what I've got going right now, I've got my desktop camera going here, and I've got a cell phone pointed at me here. And I'm going to try and talk into both of these things for now until hopefully we can get the streaming key situation sorted out on the TikTok side. So if you happen to know anything about getting a stream key for TikTok, I know apparently I have to apply for it. I already have access to live streaming on TikTok, so I thought that I would be ready to just go ahead and do it. But when I went to actually go set it up in OBS, I found out that you have to get one of these stream keys and that these can actually be difficult to get. And I don't have super high hopes for that, because you apparently have to go through a manual approvals process. And in addition to looking at how many followers you have and how much content that you post, apparently they also look at the stuff that you're posting, and they want to make sure that it follows community guidelines and meets their standards and expectations. And apparently they want to see people getting involved in gaming in their live streaming. And this is not a gaming channel. I'm not going to talk about gaming. Maybe I'll stream some Elden Ring or something at some point, but the general topic of conversation on my channels is and has always been discussing politics and discussing politics and the news of the day from the perspective that you're not getting the whole story in the mainstream media, the corporate legacy media, whatever you want to call it. And what's interesting about TikTok doesn't even have a news and politics section when you pick a topic to start your live stream. So not feeling particularly optimistic about being able to sneak this stuff past the TikTok censors, but we'll see how that goes. For now, streaming through my phone, I hope that my audio is coming in at least reasonably well, that you can hear me okay. I'll be watching for your comments. The simulcast over on the desktop I can see from here, so feel free to leave a comment. I'll definitely read through any comments if I get them. It looks like, surprisingly enough, I'm not streaming to nobody right now, which is completely what I was expecting. I totally expected to stream to nobody the first several times I did this, if not infinitely. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. I talked to you a little bit about TikTok. They came out and announced that they're going to be using their community guidelines to protect election integrity. And what I noticed is that right around the time that they made that announcement, in fact, starting slightly before it, I saw a massive drop off in my engagement and view counts on TikTok. So this is pretty similar to what happened to me on YouTube. In fact, it's almost exactly the same, where my content was doing extraordinarily well. I was getting tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of views on my videos. They would go kind of low-key viral, and I would get hundreds of new followers at a time, and things were going really well. And then all of a sudden, things just kind of fall off the cliff around the same time that they go through one of these big purges on these platforms. Now, with YouTube, it was shortly after the 2016 election. And the way they did it on there was pretty interesting. Several of my most popular videos were about what I'm going to refer to as the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, because at the time, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, it had not broken as the Epstein scandal yet, for the most part. And we had other nicknames that we used to discuss these topics, and those are now banned topics. You cannot discuss them on YouTube. You can't even type this particular phrase into your TikTok video titles. it will censor even just having the words in your title. And so YouTube went back and retroactively decided that a bunch of my videos were violations of their terms of service / community guidelines, and they called it a violation of their bullying / harassment policy, which was really unfortunate. Really upsets me that that is how they decided to do that. So I was very lucky that I didn't get banned altogether. I had to go back and delete a bunch of my old videos before they found them all, because it wasn't enough to make them private. They were ready to take those videos down, call them strikes, and it was really only luck that I was able to get rid of it all before I got banned. So now I've got a dead TikTok channel as well, from an average of 1,500 to 3,000 views down to an average of like 10 to 20 to maybe 50 views on my videos now. Very unfortunate. So let's check out, and over on YouTube you can see I have our commitment to election integrity. Let's see what they have to say about their commitment to election integrity. TikTok partners with accredited fact-checking organizations who help assess the accuracy of content in more than 30 languages. And while they do not moderate content on our platform, their assessments provide valuable input, which helps us take the appropriate action in line with our policies, out of an abundance of caution. That's the same phrase that they used when they were introducing COVID restrictions. Did you notice that? Out of an abundance of caution. While content is being fact-checked, or when content can't be substantiated through fact-checking, it becomes ineligible for recommendation into For You feeds. We also inform viewers of unsubstantiated content and prompt them to reconsider before sharing potential misleading information. So, unsubstantiated content. This is a new one. These phrases that I'm sure these are focus grouped. A regular topic of conversation on my channels is the idea that the PR industry has a lot of power in shaping the narrative, even for things where you wouldn't necessarily think politics is shaped by PR. And I'm sure that they focus group these phrases like misinformation, or unsubstantiated content, or abundance of caution. They're very careful about the words that they use, because it is a form of mimetic warfare, and that is a way of controlling the way that people think by using emotionally manipulative words. It's a modern spin on sophistry. So TikTok has a long-standing policy to not allow paid political advertising, and our community guidelines prohibit content including election misinformation, harassment, including that directed towards election workers, hateful behavior, and violent extremism. To enforce our policies, we use a combination of people and technology. We also review content and accounts reported by community members to bolster our response to emerging threats. to bolster our response to emerging threats. I'm imagining, people are posting unsubstantiated claims on TikTok, and if you can imagine, like in a fire station, people running to slide down the poles and put on their uniforms and rush out to their keyboards to make sure that people get banned and thrown off of TikTok for posting the wrong types of content. TikTok partners with independent intelligence firms. That's a whole other fascinating topic of conversation. Independent intelligence firms, and something that we've learned over the last few years is that in addition to what you think of as an intelligence agency, such as the CIA or the Mossad or MI6, and we know that these organizations are involved in manipulating media. If you don't believe me, go and Google Carl Bernstein's article, The CIA and the Media. So this information isn't coming from me, and admittedly crazy conspiracy theorist broadcasting from his living room on the internet. Carl Bernstein is the reporter that broke the Watergate scandal, one of the two of them. And so this is serious business. It is verifiably true that the CIA and other intelligence agencies are involved in manipulating media narratives. And there are also these private intelligence agencies that are hired by big corporations to do some similar work, and they are not hindered by the Constitution and by some of the laws and norms that might govern government intelligence agencies like the CIA. So that's a topic for another video. Stay tuned. Definitely like and follow, because we're going to get in and talk about stuff like that probably fairly soon. So I am not paid to do this by anybody. My content is not paid political advertising, for sure. I am not violent. I do not advocate for violence. Never will. Nothing that I post is hateful. I don't hate anybody. But ever since they have announced that this is how they're going to be doing business, my channel has been basically completely dead. So that is what it is, unfortunately. The reason why I decided to experiment with live streaming is that TikTok and these other platforms are desperate, for whatever reason, to compete with Twitch. And I'm not sure that I understand why, especially TikTok. TikTok, to me, the little bite-sized video content was an excellent little niche, because you look at what happened with Vines, where Vines were too short, and there were some entertaining Vines, but 6 seconds worth of video is not enough time to make any kind of political or philosophical point. So minimally, Vines was not useful for the type of content that I want to put out, but also that's going to get old pretty fast. But little bite-sized videos, a minute to a minute and a half, was a great way for TikTok to establish itself and establish a niche and differentiate itself from YouTube. And so why would you want to compete with Twitch if you're TikTok? Other than, I mean, I know you want to grow your audience and get more people watching and stuff. But I feel like, who wants to sit on their phone in portrait mode and watch people stream video games or whatever for half an hour, 20 minutes, an hour at a time? Or I guess now we're evolving to where people are going to watch streaming content for 15, 20, 30 seconds and then flip forward, and you're going to have to adjust your streaming content accordingly. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could pitch live streams to people that are just watching for relatively short amounts of time like that, because to me, a live stream on the internet is an extension of things like talk radio. I got into wanting to do things like this listening to the radio when I was a little kid. And this is my version of stream of consciousness broadcasting. And I don't know how I could pitch that at somebody who's only going to listen for 10 or 15 20, or 30 seconds or so. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our second and final topic for this first experimental live stream. So over on YouTube, I will go ahead and swap over to the next article here. All right. So Joe Biden has announced that he's going to forgive $10,000 in student loan debt, or possibly more, depending on how much money you make and what type of student loan debt that you are involved in. So borrowers who earn less than $125,000 a year or $250,000 for couples who file taxes jointly will be eligible for debt cancellation. Pell Grant recipients who make up the majority of student loan borrowers will be eligible for an additional $10,000 in debt relief for a total of $20,000. Biden is also extending the payment pause on federal student loans for allegedly a final time through December 31st. I feel kind of suspicious of that. I have a feeling you may see these getting postponed in perpetuity. Because once you set the expectation that things like that are going to happen, it's very difficult to turn the spigot off. We'll see if they actually turn the spigot off. You never know. Now, I have criticisms about this, but before I get into that, I do want to say that I'm actually really glad to see that some people are getting some kind of relief from their student loan debt, because what the higher education system has devolved to is really a scam where I'll get into some numbers in a second, but I think a lot of people get hoodwinked into going into college when it ends up being a poor investment for them. A lot of people end up working in fields where they don't use their degree. And that is where my criticism starts to come in. Because by simply forgiving a small amount of student loan debt, are we getting anywhere near an actual solution to the root cause that got us into this situation in the first place? And I'm going to say no. I poked around a little bit and found that in 1980, the price to attend a 4-year college full-time was $10,231 annually, which included tuition fees, room and board, and adjusted for inflation, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. By 2019 to 2020, the total price increased to $28,775, which is 180% increase. So we're talking $112,000 for a 4-year degree. And the average amount of student loan debt is almost $40,000. So that's an average. That's going to include people that have been paying down their debt for years and still have a lot of debt to pay off, in addition to people that are just getting out and have a lot of debt on hand. So why is it so expensive? Why does it cost so much money to get a bunch of kids into a room and teach them stuff? I have not found any kind of reasonable explanation for why that's the case. Why does it cost $112,000 and 4 years of somebody's time in order to give them a set of secondary job skills and allow them to be competitive in the economy? So I also see that 38.6% have said that they aren't using their degree in their current profession. So almost half of people who have spent potentially $112,000, more or less, are saying that that was a waste of their time and money. And that is utterly repulsive. It is outrageously expensive to go to college. And then on top of that, you can't even go bankrupt to get out from under your student loan debt. So if you're one of these people that have found that your degree is worthless, you're underemployed, working at Starbucks and Target, working 2 jobs in retail in order to make enough money to make ends meet, you can't even go bankrupt to get out of your student loan debt. And that's repulsive. And Biden's $10,000, especially when it comes right in the lead up to the midterm elections, right as people have a lot of skepticism in the Biden entity, the Biden administration, it seems to me a very cynical ploy in order to try to get back in people's good graces and give them a reason other than hatred for Republicans and Donald Trump to vote Democrat in the midterms. And if good things come out of it, I can accept that for what it is. But is this going to do anything over the long term to reduce the cost of an education? It's really not. In fact, it will probably increase it because it is going to be paid for by borrowing and printing money. It is not going to do anything to lower the expectation from employers that people need to have a college education in order to work in specific fields where it may or may not actually be necessary. If anything, this is probably going to drive the cost of a college education up because it is going to enable more people to seek it, more people to join the 38% that aren't using it, and supply and demand are what dictates the price of something, not government fiat. So we need in-depth reforms to the way that our culture functions in order to give people secondary job skills and make them competitive in the job market in order to address the student loan crisis. And simply forgiving a relatively small amount of student loan debt is not going to make a real impact in that. But you shouldn't be surprised, because the purpose of governments, the purpose of political parties, the purpose of politicians is not to solve problems. It is to use problems to attract people's attention and distract them and get them arguing with each other over stupid stuff while the government is run by wealthy, moneyed interests that use it as an excuse to loot the economy and rig things to be run the way that they want it to and drive the smaller players out of business, etc., etc. Well, I think that for my first experiment with live streaming and stream of consciousness broadcasting, this has gone fairly well. I hope that you feel the same way. I appreciate those of you who have watched through the entire stream. I will definitely be doing this again. And if by some miracle I do end up getting my Twitch stream key, I hope, or my TikTok stream key, I do hope that I'll be able to stream to you in better quality with better audio through my desktop setup. I will keep you posted on how that goes. So do please like and follow, and hopefully I'll talk to you again real soon. And something I've never said on TikTok, my official tagline as a philosopher, author, musician, is "It's a harsh world out there, my friends. Keep thinking." I say that at the end of all my YouTube videos, but on TikTok, I don't really have time for it. I really got to get in and get out. So it's a harsh world out there, my friends. Keep thinking, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.